Good evening, I'm Gabe Caggiano, and this is Inside Nantucket. Our story tonight, the Catherine Tripp case and the issue of domestic abuse here on the island. The latest on Catherine Tripp, she is out of intensive care at Mass General Hospital, but remains in serious condition as she recovers from her injuries. As for the man who allegedly beat her, Lorenzo Fain, he remains in jail, no bond, facing multiple assault and battery charges, as well as a charge of attempted murder.
Lorenzo, why'd you do it?
28-year-old Lorenzo Fain could not or would not answer that question as he was taken from district court back to jail after his arraignment. Fain is accused of savagely beating 23-year-old Catherine Tripp. Her injuries include 7 broken ribs, 2 cracked vertebrae, lacerated kidney and liver, collapsed lung, broken nose, and a broken jaw. During his first court appearance, Lorenzo Fain shook his head several times and avoided eye contact with the Tripp family altogether. The police report alleges Fain has beaten Catherine Tripp several times before, but police were never called. Catherine Tripp is well known on the island. Friends and former classmates are very upset.
Oh, I just think it's so sad in today's day and age that any kind of violence or abuse, we have so many things to turn to, and I'm just so sorry that this happened to this young woman.
According to Sheriff Jim Perlman, domestic assault cases are an ongoing problem on Nantucket. The numbers go up and down, but it's never zero.
Well, I don't see it as getting stabilized. I think if everybody reads the paper every week, they see the abuse situations that are going on here. So I certainly don't see it as getting better.
And joining me now to discuss the latest on the condition of Catherine Tripp is her sister, Eliza Tripp. Thank you very much for joining me. I guess you just came back from Boston a few minutes ago. How is your sister?
Right now she's in stable condition. She definitely has a long road to recovery. She's still not able to walk on her own. Right now their main concerns are her liver and her kidneys, and they're still not functioning properly. So, you know, we're just taking one step at a time and day by day. She's had a couple of rough days. Yesterday was a really rough day for her. She got out of the ICU and her levels were supposed to be at a 5 and, no, excuse me, they were supposed to be below a 1 and they were over a 5 when we had started with her kidneys. So they're now breaking down and stuff like that. They were going to do dialysis. Fortunately, they didn't have to. Her body is slowly healing on its own. Like I said, she's not able to walk on her own, but with the prayer of God, she'll get through it, you know. So
I've heard some conflicting information that her kidneys have shut down. Is there a chance that they will come back, or?
They are coming back,
Good.
yeah. We're just kind of, you know, communicating with the doctors on our team and taking it step by step. You know, it's definitely hard to go in there with just one person. You kind of need to have 2 people to advocate for her right now. So that's where we stand right now.
How are her spirits?
You know, she has good days and bad days. Yesterday she was kind of frustrated. She can communicate as of now. You can definitely tell she's frustrated. She cannot go to the bathroom on her own. She has a catheter. She is not walking on her own yet, which is definitely will come along down the road. But her spirits, I think right now she's just kind of where I don't know what to say, she's at where she can be, you know? So that's, I guess.
What does the family think about this whole incident at this point?
I think we're honestly still kind of in shock. You know, we still can't believe this happened. Unfortunately, it did, but we're just kind of taking it minute by minute and staying by her side. I just got back, and I'm going to go back up there with my mom, and that's kind of where we stand right now.
What's the prognosis? Is there any timetable when she can come back home?
It could be months. You know, I mean, she's not walking on her own yet. She has a long road to recovery, so.
When are you going back up to see her?
I'm planning on going up next week. I have to work a little bit, and that's when I plan on going back up.
Eliza, I've got to ask you a couple of questions that
may be uncomfortable. I've looked over the police report, and it says here that there were 3 or 4 incidents of abuse, according to your stepfather, Greg. And this individual, Lorenzo, has a nickname, the Monster?
No, they call him Killer.
Killer. This would indicate to anybody looking at this information that there were several red flags here, warning signs that this relationship was not healthy, that it was escalating into something terrible.
Right.
Did the family try to intervene?
Yes, we did. My mom had went to Safe Place about a month ago when we had an incident that my sister encountered with him, and because my sister is going to be 24 in February, you know, legally we can't go to the police, and you know, we can only do so much. So what my mom did is she went to Safe Place a month ago and explained to Jennifer, who's been a great family support, our situation, and you know, so to just take it step by step. Maybe she'll come in and speak with us, and don't push too much on her. You know, I mean, I think a lot of people out there are thinking, you know, why didn't she go to Safe Place? You know, these girls need to go to the cops. And I mean, when you're in fear of your life, and he's not a small guy, I think that they are so petrified that they really don't know what to do. You know, and unfortunately it took an awful situation like this to happen to her. And that's where we're at.
Is there some reason why a family member didn't contact the police on their own before this?
Me and my mom had only known about the one incident that had happened, and that's when my mother had went to Safe Place. So I don't know about the previous situations that have been documented or whatnot, but when my mom did find that out, my mom did go to the police, go to Safe Place. I mean, I don't think there's much that you can do when you contact the police, because we weren't actually there when that had happened and stuff like that. And I think Catherine would legally have to do it on her own, which file a restraining order, stuff like that. And I don't think at that moment she felt she was safe enough. So.
Are you close to your sister?
Very close.
Well, according to the report, again, there were 3 or 4 incidents leading up to this tragic incident.
Right.
Why didn't she break away from him after the first or second, which from what I understand, experts tell me this is not uncommon.
Right.
That women will put up with a lot of physical abuse until something really catastrophic like this occurs.
Right.
Why would she put up with it 1, 2, 3 times instead of walking away from this relationship?
To be honest, I don't know what is going through someone else's head. You know, I did speak with her.
But she does talk to you. You're close.
Yes, we are close. And I did say to her several times, you know, Catherine, I don't know what you're going through, but I can see that you're not happy. If there's anything I can do to help you. And she was just kind of like, I'm fine. I don't need your help. I'm a big girl, you know, you and Mom, and you guys are over-exaggerating. And unfortunately, the last time when I had heard he had strangled her, I said to my mom, you know, something really bad.
What, he strangled her?
Yeah. Am I supposed to be saying?
You can say whatever you like.
Yeah, he had strangled her, and my mom had...
When did he strangle her?
This was like about a month or 2 ago, and
to the point where she lost consciousness?
No, and that's when my mom had went to Safe Place, and that's when I said, you know, Catherine, something really bad is going to happen to you. And I think she did know, but she had no way to break away from the situation. I mean, he's a big guy. He's very intimidating. A lot of people on the island think he is a great guy. And unfortunately, a lot of these people that are abusive put on a role to make people think that they're a great person, they'll help you out and stuff like that. And I think he misled a lot of people to believing that he was a great guy. And unfortunately, I hope people realize that from what they've seen and read in the newspapers, and know that my sister has a really long road to recovery, that he's not all made up what it seems to be, you know.
Do you have anything you'd like to say to women, young women, any women of any age who may be in the same situation and have not gone to the police at this point?
I would just say, you know, don't be afraid to not speak up. You know, if you know the situation, as you've probably heard of what my sister's been through, you know, step forward. There's people out there who will help you safe place. The police, you know, they have been amazing help. I never thought that the Nantucket Police Department would be so supporting and so encouraging and really doing such a great job that they've done with my family and still right now.
Well, Eliza, we certainly hope you keep us updated on your sister's condition. And if you want to come back and talk to us about this, the whole island has responded very much
Great, and I
to
can't
this.
thank the Nantucket community, Brian Glowacki for his prayer vigil, the Nantucket Police Department, and my whole entire family has been completely supportive. I mean, even worldwide, they did, I know in Jamaica, Italy, several places out of the country, they even lit a candle for my sister for a prayer vigil, and it's just been so amazing to see the Nantucket community and other people in Brazil and everywhere just, you know, show their support for my sister and stuff like that. And I think when she sees it, she'll be really proud.
Okay, Eliza, thank you very much. We wish your family the best. And for anybody out there who is facing a situation that is similar to this, there are resources out there. And one of them is a safe place. The number there is 508-228-2111. Or you can also call the Nantucket Police. Joining me now is the Chief of the Nantucket Police, Bill Pittman, and the head of A Safe Place, Kat Robinson-Greeter. Thank you both for being here today. Kat, you just heard Eliza tell the story of her sister, Catherine. You've probably heard this narrative many times before. And I have to ask you, why does it have to reach critical mass before some women finally get help when they're badly beaten the way this woman was?
So you're asking me, why does someone stay with an abusive partner?
Yes.
Well, that's a question that lots of people ask, and there are a lot of different reasons. Some has to do with the fear of leaving them and what might happen to them if they do. I mean, abusers are always telling them and making threats about what will happen if they tell anybody what's going on, if they go to law enforcement. So there are some very real danger issues with leaving an abusive partner. There are sometimes or often financial issues involved. There are often children involved, and many people feel that even if they're being abused, the father of their children may be a good father, and so there's, you know, they're thinking that they need to stay there for the sake of their children.
So it's complicated.
It's complicated. There are lots of reasons, and also, I mean, for love. There are usually reasons why people got together in the first place. Women and sometimes men, because men are also abused sometimes in
So the
relationships.
psychodynamics of this, the bonds are hard to break. Chief, where do we stand on the island right now overall with domestic abuse? Where are the numbers going?
Well, the numbers are pretty static in a sense that they fluctuate. You know, I think this year we had 167, I believe, reported domestic abuse cases that we processed. Last year we had probably a record low for us of 88, and the year before that it was back up in the hundreds.
So you've almost doubled it this year?
Almost doubled.
Now,
But
do you have any idea why?
Well, I can only speculate in part why, but I think a great part of that is because over the last few years we've had a new process in place for dealing with it, using or partnering with A Safe Place. And typically now when we're getting involved in cases, there's an advocate from A Safe Place either helping us deal with the victim or helping the victim deal with the police. And I think it is more successful outcomes lately than we used to have years ago, is why we see the numbers going the way they are.
Do you think the police might have had a public relations problem previously? Because now you're telling me that you're partnering with A Safe Place, but there's been a lot of hesitancy to call the police. Is it because possibly they didn't think the police would take this seriously, and now they are?
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think what it was in the past was the way that law enforcement dealt with victims of domestic abuse and even sexual assaults was very sterile. You know, it was just give us the facts and only the facts, and basically we had the victims reliving the offense that they, or the victimization. And it was important because we had to document the facts of the case for a prosecution. But that was our only focus, was a prosecution. And over the years now, with emergence of domestic violence shelters and advocates, victims advocates, we're starting to see a more holistic approach to dealing with victims. Many victims don't come forward because they're not ready to be victimized again and relive it. And you know, we can work with a safe place, for instance, to deal with some of the emotional, financial, and supporting roles that need to happen with victims of these cases. And then when they are ready to start moving their case into a prosecution phase, the victims are more in charge of the outcome of that. And, you know, and that's important, that part.
As a veteran lawman, does it often take some kind of cataclysmic event for a community to maybe actually change their perspective on the resources available, and to then get people thinking in a different way so that they will pick up the phone when they feel they're in danger?
Well, unfortunately, I think that's partially true. You know, why are we doing this interview today is because there was a cataclysmic event. It seems like every time over the past 8 years that I've been here, there's been about 3 occasions where we've had attention paid by the media and the press and things to a great extent. I mean, there's always support there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the front issue, and it's always followed an incident that, you know, made the front page of the paper, so to speak. So I think it's unfortunate because it is every community's dirty little secret what is going on in domestic relationships, and it's probably this time of year right now. When I look at the daily log and there's an arrest on that log sheet, it's generally going to be either a domestic violence case or it's going to be an OUI case.
Why?
One or the other.
Why?
It's just the way it is. Those are so prevalent in the community that they tend to be what we deal with a lot here.
Is it because it's the time of year there's nothing to do, or what?
I think this time of year it's because it's because there's not as much other activity. In the summer, it happens just as much, if not more. It just gets buried in with all the rest of the activity that we're involved in. You know, the summer dynamics here is much different than what we experience this time of year. This time of year, you know, it's not. We're busy as a law enforcement agency because we got you know, lesser staff, but we're not dealing with the problems from off island that come here. In the summer, many people that have domestic issues going in their lives come here to sometimes escape, sometimes under the fantasy that maybe a couple of weeks away will make everything better, and things like that. But unfortunately what happens is we end up getting involved in it then, and then we got added complications of dealing with out-of-state protective orders, dealing with victims and suspects who don't live here, and you know, they commit a crime here, and then we have to prosecute them from here, that kind of thing.
Are the numbers per capita of domestic abuse the same as anywhere in the country, or is it less or more here on Nantucket? Chief?
I'm trying to think. I don't know the answer to that. My feeling is, just from, you know, my 30 years in this business, is it's probably higher up in the ranking of the crimes that occur in Nantucket than it is in most communities outside. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think, you know, the isolation of the island kind of leads to some of that. Many folks that come here to start a new life, sometimes trying to leave the old life behind, they find out they can't escape it.
Yeah, so it goes to that old saying, no matter where you go, you take yourself with you.
That's right.
Kat, would you please explain what a safe place does and why it's in a lot of people's benefit to call it if they're in a state of fear?
Well, our agency has several different programs that we offer. One of it, which is domestic violence community-based services, which involves our 24-hour hotline, which is live answered by advocates, generally our staff members, 24 hours a day, and they have the ability to respond in person then, if needed, to the police station or the hospital to provide support, safety planning, help with restraining orders. We also have court advocates that at every meeting of district court that assist people through the process of court and stand up with them in front of the judge. We have supportive counseling at our office. We also, over the last few years, have done a bit more with basic needs for victims of abuse, because very often there are other dynamics going on in terms of sometimes needing help with food or clothing or basic necessities. We don't have a whole lot of ability to provide that.
You're not really a women's shelter either, are you?
There are no residential
Right.
services on the island.
So you would place somebody
unfortunately.
temporarily in a safe situation
We do.
if the situation required that?
We do have the ability for very short time safe homing. It's usually just a night or two, and it's generally part of a plan to leave the island.
Mm-hmm.
There's just, on the island, there's no safe place to keep anybody for any period of time. We don't have the staff and resources to do that. So sometimes we assist people to relocate to shelters or family or friends off island.
How busy are you right now?
The last few weeks especially have been very busy, but I have to say over this last year, we have been much busier, I feel like, than just on a consistent basis than in the past.
You said something very interesting to me when we spoke on the phone last week, that the number of incidents reported to you have actually gone down, but the incidents reported were actually more violent in
Right.
nature. Is that
Well,
accurate?
Actually, I don't think I gave you the number of incidents. I said the number of individuals that we have assisted over the past year has decreased from the previous year. But yeah, the cases that we've worked on an ongoing basis and what we've dealt with has in general been a lot more high risk.
Well, that's what I was
violent.
that's
Yeah,
what I was saying.
Exactly, right, right. So, I brought with me some information from the U.S. Department of Justice of the top 5 risk factors for homicide and domestic violence
Yeah, that's good.
cases.
Please
And,
tell me this, because women need to know where they stand with an outside perspective.
Right.
So that they can maybe take preemptive action.
Right, so those risk factors would be having weapons either in the home or available to the abusive partner, threats of violence or death, strangulation is a very high risk factor, constant jealousy, and forced sex. So in any cases in which any of those things are present, there's a much higher probability that homicide may be the ultimate end.
Unfortunately, if you look at the police report, there were several red flags, according to your red flags, in this particular case.
Well,
with
we're very
Lorenzo Fain.
lucky if Catherine's sister hadn't found her, and she may not have made it. We're very lucky that she's still with us.
Okay, Chief, a final word to anybody out there. What would you like to say to the community? I know you cannot speak about this case specifically, but in general, a final word?
Well, I think it's important that if you're at risk, or if you even think you're at risk, or you know somebody's at risk, that you talk to somebody about it to find out what your options are. Invariably, we have many people come in and talk to the police officers, and I know A Safe Place has a lot of this. We hear a lot of, I have a friend stories. And those, it turns out to be, they may be the victim or whatever, but people have to feel comfortable that this island takes their concerns seriously. And, you know, we may not be able to deal with it on a prosecution level, but we'll work with a safe place to help with other safety issues that can, you know, protect people's lives. You know, the situation that we just all talked about a few minutes ago, we don't want it to ever get to that level. And, you know, most of the time it's just talking to somebody and learning what your options are can make a big difference in the long run.
Kat?
But it's also really important to know that as a friend or family member, if you suspect somebody is going through this, to offer your support. But it's really up to the person themselves to make what decisions they need to make. I mean, you can't force somebody to go to the police or seek any services. Sometimes people aren't ready. However, there are a lot of options and ways that, you know, you can receive support in the community in a confidential way from a safe place. Our advocates are really wonderful.
You know, girls are
people.
getting counseling now in high school, aren't they? About the, you know, the origins of abusive relationships. So
Right.
one would think that by the time they reach their late teens, early 20s, moving forward, they would have the education
Well,
to
there's
understand the signs.
There's always really more we can do, and in fact, I'm in the process of hiring a prevention education coordinator for our agency. We've really been focused on direct service to victims over the last few years in particular, although we have always offered educational programs. But I really feel that in order to reduce and stop these, you know, horrific incidences of violence, we need to do more prevention work in the community, and that is starting with youth and teaching them about healthy relationships, but also going out into the community with adults and teaching safe ways to intervene or to let people know what is and what is not acceptable behavior.
All right. Well, Chief Pittman, Kat Robinson Greeter,
Yes.
we certainly hope that people will see this and maybe it will make an impact and an impression on somebody out there so that they will pick up a phone and a similar tragedy can be averted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's our show for tonight. This show was made possible by a generous donation by the Art Cabinet of Nantucket, bringing contemporary art to the island for 15 years. For everyone here, I'm Gabe Caggiano. Good night.